before me, spreading light and hope and joy and love to all the humans and all the creatures of our beautiful azure sphere. The celestial being I had seen while I was ascending in the garden in Amritsar gradually materialized beside me. He had the, listen to this, I want to read this again. A celestial being presented itself to this guy. And here's what he said. His exact words are, he had the exact appearance of Christ. The exact appearance of Christ. He smiled at me and said, "You're learning, my son. Well done." He raised his right hand in blessing, then floated toward me and into me. Once I was again sitting before the peasant Boanerges, which is the name for John. Boanerges means sons of thunder. On the log where he was playing his flute, he took it from his lips, smiled at me and said, "So, do you see what's been happening on the earth? It could easily have been destroyed. Human beings come into technology so painfully. 17 of us saw this potential for annihilation some 5,000 years ago. You know what happened 5,000 years ago? The days of Noah. Some 5,000 years ago, and have been working to change that which seemed inevitable, to divorce humanity from competition and savagery so the underlying love and light could be revealed and resume their rightful place. It all goes in stages, you see, and each stage takes about 1,000 years. All of the great leaders, Krishna, Buddha, Shankara, Mohammed, they were all of the 17 of us of Christ and his teacher, the Baptist John the Baptist. The Freemasons worshiped John the Divine and John the Baptist. Why? Because they're polar opposites. Saint John, or John who wrote the Revelation, is always depicted as being feminine, and John the Baptist is this masculine guy. He's feeling a little hormonal today. Grows hair. So anyway, that's why they worship these guys. Anyway, the Saint John the Baptist, where was I reading here? He said, who was Elijah before and Moses before that. We've all worked very hard with a stubborn people, our human race. 2,000 years ago in the West, we broke through the veil. Think about what happened 2,000 years ago. Punched it out completely. Love re-entered the earth fully for the first time in more than 3,000 years. Starting with the smallest handful of dedicated workers, we expanded the breach, forced chaos into form, isolated and imprisoned the destructive tendencies of humanity into even more rigid boundaries. This forced, after 1,000 years, the dominion of the Antichrist. And then it goes on, he talks about a bunch of stuff. I haven't read all of this yet. And I may want to continue this into Thursday because I think it's that critical. But I'm going to cover some of the things scripturally that I shared before. Let me go back up to my scriptures here. Come to some things that he said. We covered the idea of the number 7, the 7 nations and so on. And I want you to think about darkness now for a minute. Think about why the lights have to come down. Why is it when you go to church you can't even read your Bible? You can't look at a hymn book. You can't even hardly see, what time it is on your watch. Why is it? Because men love darkness rather than light. Deuteronomy 28:29, and thou shalt grope at noonday as the blind gropeth in darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways, and thou shalt be only oppressed and spoiled evermore, and no man shall save thee. Listen, there's going to come a time when salvation is going to be pulled off the earth. I am absolutely convinced of that. And it's a time of darkness. Exodus 10:21, and the Lord said unto Moses, stretch out thine hand toward heaven, that there may be darkness over the land of Egypt, even darkness which may be felt. 1 Samuel 2:9, he will keep the feet of his saints. Listen to what God said. He will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. What is contemplative prayer? Oh, go into a dark room, go into a closet, turn all the lights out, and then whisper. For by strength shall no man prevail. Psalm 107:10, such as sit in darkness and in the shadow of death. The Wiccan's book of shadows, with that triquetra on it, is the shadow of death. Being bound in affliction and iron. Daniel chapter 2. Think about that. Now I want you to take your King James Bible and turn to Proverbs chapter 2. I'm going to read this, And let me see how many emails I've got here. Oh, wow. Boy, I tell you what, people, I feel bad for you. I may move into this a little bit Thursday, and then we'll deal with some emails. If you've written me an email today, and it's very important, and you want me to read it online, then send it back to me this coming Thursday. Proverbs chapter 2. My son, I want you to listen. I want you to just look at how a church gets moved from this to this. Proverbs 2 is how it happens. Listen to the Bible. My son, if thou wilt receive my words and hide my commandments with thee, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom and incline thine heart to understanding. Yea, if thou criest after knowledge and liftest up thy voice for understanding, if thou seekest her as silver and searchest for her as for hid treasures, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. That's Bible Christianity in its simplistic idea. You get into this Bible and say, God, show me what this Bible says. And God says, you'll understand. You'll get it. But then he says, verse 6, for the Lord giveth wisdom, out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. The lady, the parent of this 11-year-old child, she said, do you know what prayer is? He said, yes, I do. She said, prayer is asking for things from God. And he said, but ma'am, you don't understand what I understand. That how do we hear from God? We have to hear from God. She said, yeah, I know. You open up your King James Bible and read it. This guy, and she said during the conversation, she mentioned something about the Holy Spirit, and she said, this guy, she said, there was a change about him. And I said, yeah, he's got a spirit. She said, I saw it. I saw it in that room in this guy, in a Christian school. I'm going to be like Fox Mulder from the X-Files. Trust no one, including me. You know what you trust? Right here. Out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. Verse 7, he layeth up sound wisdom for the righteous. He is a buckler to them that walk uprightly. He keepeth not those that fall down, by the way. He keepeth, falling backwards. He keepeth the paths of judgment and preserveth the way of his saints. I like that. I believe that verse. Then shalt thou understand righteousness and judgment and equity, yea, every good path. When wisdom entereth into thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee. Now, don't you watch this now, because God preserves it. How does God preserve it? He preserves the saints through his word. The saint then attaches himself to this word, and the saint is preserved. Discretion shall preserve thee. How do you get discretion? From the Bible. God preserves his word. He promises to preserve the saint. The saint then attaches himself. The hope, the anchor of the soul, is attached to the Bible. And when you are anchored to the Bible, you are preserved. What do we see? We see a movement away from the words of the Bible. Oh, God is in me. He's telling, oh, wait a minute. Oh, I heard God say this. That person has become unattached. And there is no preservation for them. Can I just say something without making somebody mad here? I just don't think that there's going to be people in heaven who say, you know, I just never really believed in God. I quit, you know, I believed the Bible at one time, but I just quit believing. I don't believe the Bible anymore. They're not in heaven. Anyway, discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee, to deliver thee from the way of the evil man. The evil man. We know who that is, don't we? He has a way, and he's trying to teach his way through the New Age movement, through all the stuff that's going on in the Christian schools, in the churches, at the teen functions. You know, a lot of times when the youth leaders pulling the whole teen group and the kids out of the congregation, out of the church service, did you ever wonder what's going on in there? In today's world, I don't know that I would trust putting my kids with a youth pastor anymore. We don't have one here. Anyway, Verse 10, when wisdom entereth in thine heart, and knowledge is pleasant unto thy soul, discretion shall preserve thee, understanding shall keep thee, to deliver thee from the way of the evil man, from the man that speaketh froward things, who leave the paths of uprightness to walk in the ways of darkness, who rejoice to do evil and delight in the frowardness of the wicked. That's Barack Obama saying, yeah, I think it's okay for sodomites to marry each other. Verse 15, whose ways are crooked. A serpent going up the 33 bones of your spinal column. That's the crooked way. That's not the straight path. Whose ways are crooked, and they froward in their paths, to deliver thee from the strange woman, even from the stranger which flattereth with her words. Let me tell you, the spirit of the strange woman is right here. That's her spirit that you see right there. Because I kind of looked at this little ministry here, and it's all about female empowerment. It's all about teaching them how they can be the leaders now. That's unbiblical. That's ungodly. That's not right. And so the strange woman looks like that. She flattereth with her lips, her words. Verse 17, which forsaketh the guide of her youth. She's leaving the church and forgetteth the covenant of her God. This is how it is right here. The strange woman leads the church from this to this. That's her job. Jezebel says, Naboth has a vineyard. I'm going to get the vineyard from Naboth to Ahab. She forsakes the guide of her youth and forgetteth the covenant of her God. Verse 18, for her house inclineth unto death, and her paths unto the dead. Now I want you to look at verse 19. None that go unto her return again. She represents the path of no return. Neither take they hold the paths of life, that thou mayest walk in the way of good men, and keep the paths of the righteous. For the upright shall dwell in the land. Think about what I've said, in the land, and the perfect shall remain in it. But the wicked shall be cut off from the earth, and the transgressors shall be rooted out of it. The Bible is telling you how this Christian school got transformed from this to this. Thank God that a young man calls me on the phone, sends me the details of this, and he says, Pastor Mike, I went from this to this. And he said, this is now under my feet. And you pray for this guy. Pray for his wife. He said, they both come out of it. He said, our mother-in-law, she's still in it. She won't listen. Christian churches, Christian schools, Christian ministries, magazines, publications, books, Bibles, you name it. Christian music. We are being flooded with the occult and the New Age. And you know what? I'm going to do this. This is heavy on my mind. And I am going to, let me punch a button here real quick. I don't want to be interrupted here. I'm going to go just a couple more minutes. I want you to take your King James Bible here, and I want you to turn to 1 Samuel chapter 28. 1 Samuel chapter 28. I'm going to go back and read something that this practitioner of the dark, dark, dark world said. And by the way, how do you get darkness into a church? Turn the light off. That's how you do it. Okay? Let's see how simple that is. Now, this guy that wrote this book, he's doing all these little practices, going through the 7 chakras and everything like that. And he said, a celestial being materialized beside me. He had the exact appearance of Christ. Now, I'm going to stand by something that I've said before that some of you questioned. I'm going to stand by this. If you just were to identify the phrase and define the phrase familiar spirit,